I noticed people had some questions about my experience and data presented in the last video, so I'm gonna explain the topic a little further for better understanding before answering your burning questions. What type of companies did you work for? I worked in one construction company and two manufacturing companies. While I have an engineering degree, the positions that I applied to did not mandate the degree. This is not to say my degree had no impact, since most manufacturing companies prefer applicants with engineering background over those with liberal arts degree. I also have a private tutor background, working in the infamous private education institutions called Hagwon. Since I did this throughout college, I think of it as a part-time job with no actual job stability. It didn't help me pay off my tuition though. Types of employment in Korean company. We have a very different system of employment compared to the one in the States. But before I get into this, I'm gonna explain how social insurance works in Korea. There are four major social insurance schemes required by law: national pension, health insurance, employment insurance, and workers' compensation insurance. When you have these four major social insurance covered under the employment contract, you're considered 정규직, which means permanent employee, or 계약직, which means temporary employee. There are other types of employment such as self-employed, freelancer, and part-timer who works in convenience stores and etc., but only permanent employee positions are looked at as stable position of work that everyone wants to get. I will explain why. Well, similar to Japan in terms of employment, in that permanent employee can almost never get fired after once getting hired, unless the company goes under or you commit a serious crime, so there's a much higher job stability. In some cases, you can even join a labor union that exists in your company. In most cases, these unions talk to the top corporate management each year and decide on the wage growth and incentive amount from the year before. On the other hand, temporary employee means you're running on a limited year contract. This is usually 2 to 3 years, and there may be discrepancy in your wage and even benefits and how you're treated in the company. So what are the perks of working in large corporation in Korea? I'm gonna name a few. Number 1, full coverage of medical fees. So whether you have health insurance under your employment contract or have individual contract with the government, you have to pay 30% of medical fees for a small hospital to 50 or 60% for big hospitals, while the rest is covered by your country. One of the perks that come with corporate job is that this remaining fee is fully covered by the company. So basically $0 spent, except for half of monthly health insurance rate, 7.09%, half of which is already paid by the company. Number 2, partial coverage of medical fees for family members. This is the same as number 1, but for family members. Number 3, extra holiday for national holiday vacation. Number 4, mostly Hyundai related corp only, up to 20 to 25% discount on Hyundai or Kia brand car purchase. Number 5, housing support. For some companies, you get to receive a monthly bonus that will cover your rent or mortgage interest for a limited number of years. Number 6, cash-like points you can use in company store or anywhere with your credit card. Number 7, cheaper resorts, hotels, and etc. Number 8, much nicer company cafeteria, and even options for vegetarian. Now I'm gonna do a Q&A from last video. First question was, how did you work 3 jobs as fresh recruit? Simple. I moved twice before finally settling for one company. Fresh out of college, I got a corporate job in a different city. After working for a few months, I decided to quit due to low job satisfaction and mainly having no friends or family members nearby. I lived in Japan for a couple months, and upon my return to Korea, I decided to apply to a different company. I ended up working at a construction company for 2 weeks, which I promptly quit at 2-week mark since they tried to send me to an overseas construction project management position. Finally, I interviewed for a corporate job that was in a much bigger city than the one I had before. As you can probably guess, I got the job and here I am. Since I'm on this topic, I'm gonna explain why graduates fresh out of college often do what I did here. Going to more than one company for their first place of work before finally settling for one company. As I explained in my previous video, there's a big difference of wage among 3 different levels of corporation in Korea. This 2022 statistics looks at a total of 4.2 million workers that moved to a different company. Only 12% of that succeeded in moving to a large corporation. This means you're virtually stuck in a small to mid-sized company if you choose it as your first place of work. Large corporation often has better predicted future in each industry, and well, as you can probably tell from our birth rate, people think unless you have a corporate job or are already insanely rich, you cannot afford to have a baby or even get married. This is why some people, including past me, choose to apply as fresh recruit even while working up to a few years at a different company to move to a bigger company with higher pay. One thing to note here is that since there are a lot of people who do the same, when you have previous work experience, you choose to be 중고 신입, who has work experience but are not applying for a position in which that experience is rewarded with higher pay or seniority. So you only get what fresh recruits get paid. This is to reduce competition and make yourself stand out among actual college graduates with no experience. Sometimes up to half of those applicants for a fresh recruit belong to this category. In my first place of work, I even saw someone who was the same fresh recruit as me, but has been working for almost 8 years at a different company. He was a team manager in a smaller company, but chose to start his career fresh at a much larger corporation. Since, get this, even as a first-year lowest level employee, he made more money than he did as a team manager in his previous job. When you apply for a corporate job, you usually stand against hundreds of other applicants for that very position. According to 잡소설, which is a platform similar to ZipRecruiter, the company that I worked for had 250 people applying for one position only, which is quite scary since they only counted people apply through their platform. If you also take other platforms into consideration, well, it's going to be at least 3 times of that. 750 people competing for just one job is what best describes Korea's modern job market. Even for smaller companies, this kind of competition is not unheard of. As of 2024, a total of 420,000 young people between 15 and 29 years of age are unemployed and have given up looking for a job. Remember, these people are not counted as unemployed in the statistics since they gave up in this job market. For unemployed stats, people who are actively looking for a job and yet are still unemployed are counted separately. Right now, there is 5.9% of unemployment rate for people between 15 and 29 years of age, which means roughly 240,000 people are unemployed. Also, there are people who don't belong to either one of these categories. It's those that work maybe 1 hour a week and are still considered employed. People have temporary positions that have no job security also belong to this category. From people in their 20s that work, which is 3.4 million people, there are 1.46 million people who work temporary jobs. This includes convenience stores, gas stations, restaurants, and etc. Also, there are 570,000 people who are not even counted as potential job seekers since they are preparing for a test to become a police officer, government employee, and more. So combining all these numbers together, this amounts to 2.7 million young people who cannot land a permanent position, which every high school and college grad and even grad school graduates aim for. It is nearly impossible to have an accurate number for how many are actually struggling with unemployment due to how these stats surveys are conducted. But we can see that out of 10 million young people population from 19 to 34 years of age, from what I calculated, around 1/3 cannot land a decent job. This issue has led Korean government to consider making old people work even longer, up to 65 years old, and make young people pay more for national pension. There are many layers to this issue, so I suggest checking multiple sources to form your own idea before just listening to one conclusion.